Hi, welcome back for another video. My name is Tanya. For those of you that are new to this YouTube channel, I am a watercolor and acrylic artist, and I've been doing these little collages, watercolor collages lately, and I did a handful of videos already on how I make those collages. But this is one of the processes I didn't show you how to do, and that is to paint a bunch of flowers and leaves and little houses, and then I cut them apart and I put them in a little box like this. And I've got about 5 little boxes, one specifically for leaves, one for flowers, one for houses, and one for just little different kind of shapes that I want to use in my watercolor paintings. So I'm just going to show you how I go about doing this. And then this side is the houses. So here again, I have different size houses from large all the way to small. And I just keep them in these boxes, so when I am wanting to create, I have them ready to go. So I made 4 different sheets here. Purple flowers, red. This one here I used Naples yellow, and then this one here was just a mixture of different greens. But I'm going to take you through the process. So I've got my Bohong watercolor paper right here. And I usually use Arches watercolor paper, but I was introduced to this about a month ago and I'm liking it. It's almost the same quality as the Arches. So it doesn't really matter what size paper you've got. We're going to be cutting these apart anyways. And then I've got some brushes here. I've got my size 4 and my size 10 in my Velvet Touch, my Princeton Velvet Touch. And I also have a couple just generic ones for when I pull in, sometimes I pull in the bleed proof white, and I don't want to use a good brush for that. So I just pull in more of a crafty brush. So what I do to start is sometimes I use a pencil and just to outline the kind of flowers I want, but I usually don't. And this time I'm not going to. I am just going to start with, let's see, I'm going to take my size 10. I'm going to get it wet. And I've got my paper towel and my Winsor Newton watercolors, and then I have 2 palettes here, one for more of my cool colors and one for more of my warm colors. As you can see, I usually just leave the paint on my palette. I don't really wash it off because sometimes I just want, I can even just mix them to mix like the purple and the green, and then you get this like really grayed down green. So it's just nice just to leave sometimes. I mean, if you really need a specific color, then go ahead and wash off your palette and get a nice clean slate. But I usually just leave my colors on there because you can create some really beautiful colors by mixing them. All right. First, I'm going to take a little wash, and I've got just a blue here. I think this is my indigo blue, but it's very, very muted. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to make some petals here. So first, I just kind of outline it, but then I fill it in right away because you don't want to keep the outline, obviously, of the flower. So fill it in, and I'm just doing a really light wash because this is not really going to be the color. I mean, it will be the color of my flower, but it's not going to be the only color of my flower. And I'm going to make just 5 very generic petals here. And as you can see, I am leaving some white space. I'm not filling in the whole petal. And you can make these as big or as small as you want. And this is just a very generic flower. Now, if you want, you can go back in with a clean brush. If you feel like this is too dark, I just wanted a light little wash. So you can go in with a clean brush and just pick up some of that paint. And then I'm going to bring in, I believe this is my mauve, Winsor Newton mauve. And I'm going to just put a little dot right in the middle like that. And since my flower is nice and wet already, it just automatically just starts to spread around the petals. Now, if it's not spreading as much as you wanted, clean off your brush. And you can help it along a little bit. You can push it out a little bit from that center into the petals. Not too much, because you don't want your whole flower to be this mauve color, or whatever color you're choosing. Look how pretty that is. And then, so now you can see I've got that light indigo, I've got my mauve, and then I still have my white highlights from the paper showing through. We're going to let that go ahead and dry, and I'm going to do a different color one. Let's see. So what I do is I just fill up my host sheet. That's pretty much what this one was. This one right here. So this one I just used the indigo and the mauve. All right, so here again, I'm going to do Just a light wash, and I pulled in a little bit more of my mauve this time. And I'm going to do 5 petals, leaving a little bit of that white space. Again, I just want a wash, a light wash. All right. And I'm going to pull in more of that mauve right there. See that little burst? Look how pretty that is. Now, like I said before, if you, and you could always go in and put more like this if you want to, if you feel like it needs to be a little bit more dark in the middle there. Wash off your brush, and if it's not bursting as much as you wanted, go ahead and help it along a little bit. Just push it out from that center and let it dry. Let's go ahead and make a pink one. So I'm going to use my Opera Pink, and I've got a really light wash once again. And try to fill these up as much as you can. You don't want to waste your paper. So just try and fill up as much as you can. And I'll even show you later as we're cutting some apart. I will take the empty spots between the flowers as I'm cutting them, and I will make some smaller flowers or smaller leaves. So I try not to waste my paper, especially the really good watercolor paper. It's pretty expensive, and you want to use every little bit of it as you can. All right. And you can always make some of these a little bit larger. All right, now I'm going to take my mauve again and just put it right in the center like that. Now, as this one's starting to dry, that's a beautiful little round center there in the flower. You can always go in and add a little bit more, and it just pops it even a little bit more. So as these are drying, you can go in and figure out if you need a little bit more, or if it needs a little help being pushed into the petals, like that. Perfect. Now, if you don't like all that white space showing, you can go ahead and as your petal is still nice and wet, you can go ahead and just fill in some of those areas. I actually like the white space, the negative space on some of these flowers, so I'm just going to leave it alone. All right, I'm going to let those dry. If there's a flower that ends up on your sheet that you're just not fond of, then don't cut it out. Don't use it. Throw it away. You don't have to use everything that you create. Sometimes in a painting, you just want, here, let me show you. I framed this one the other day. I did a video on this one actually. But see how some of these flowers are right on the edge of my painting? So let's say you do a flower on your sheet and like only half of it turns out really nice and the other half you're not very fond of. Go ahead and cut that flower out anyways, because you might end up using only half of it on your painting. So you never know what you're going to be using. So I usually just go ahead, even if there's something I don't like, and I don't think I'm going to use it, I go ahead and cut it out anyways, because there might be just even a little sliver of that petal that I want showing on a painting. So go ahead and do that too. But if you really don't like any part of the flower, then go ahead and just throw it away. Doesn't really matter. All right, so I'm going to let those dry, and I am going to go on to some leaves. So let's see, I've got a mixture already on my palette. And I believe that this one was my Hooker's Green. There we go. Get it all nice and wet again. And then I think I'm going to be pulling in some of my indigo in here as well. And I had a little bit of my ultramarine blue underneath here. So this is what I'm talking about. I love to just mix my colors on my palette. And then I usually end up leaving them because you never know what color it's going to make. So if you washed off your palette, you'll never know. It's just a good way of experimenting with colors. All right, so I'm going to do a light wash. Turn my page this way. I'm going to do a light wash of my Hooker's Green. And actually, this is not as light as I wanted, but that's okay. That's all right. I'm just going to do a very generic leaf right here. I'm going to leave a little bit of white space and a nice long stem. Now I want to bring in a little bit of my indigo, because again, I do love to just blend my colors. And one unexpected color, let's go ahead and pull in a red. I think this one was my Rose Madder that I'm pulling in right now. And you could even just drop in a little bit of that color too. and just see how that turns out. Again, if you don't like the way it turns out, you can paint over it. You can just not cut it out, not use it, whatever. This is your little painting here. And I think I want to make some of this lighter. So I'm just going to take a brush with clean water and just lift that up. See how that just made the side of my leaf a little bit lighter? That's all you have to do in watercolor. You're never going to get the white of the paper back because the watercolor stains your paper, so you're never going to get the white of the paper back. But you are able to lift up a little bit and make something a little bit lighter. All right, let's do this one a little bit more blue. Do another one here. This one I've got a little bit more of my indigo, and I think I've got some green in here mixed in. Leave a little bit of white space again. Oh, and I didn't mention this, but I am using my number 10 still. I love these Velvet Touch, the Princeton Velvet Touch brushes. I like the ones with the long, it's called a long round because it's a little bit bigger. It's got more bristles and it comes to a really nice point. So I really like using those, especially for my leaves. I'm going to add a little bit of that rose madder in here again. And I think I'm going to pull in a little bit more of, I think this is my Viridian. Just drop in a little bit of my Viridian. Look how pretty that is. So you never know what you're going to get with watercolors. As soon as they dry, sometimes it's just very unpredictable. It just ends up being something you weren't even expecting. Just the way that it dries automatically on the paper. Pretty. So it's really nice. Let me show you the one I did last night. It's really nice to have some variety in here. So see how this one is more of the Viridian. Actually, no, this one I believe was my Hooker's Green, and then I added in some indigo and then some of that rose madder. And some of these I used a little bit more green, some of these I used a little bit more indigo. And then again, here's all my little nice highlights. You could do different shapes. This one here is more of an upside down heart. This one's more of a teardrop. There's so many different leaves out there. If you just go on Google and just browse through as many leaves as you can, you'll just see a whole bunch of different shapes and just play around with it. You know, it's even nice to get just throw in there once in a while like a very unpredictable leaf. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got my rose madder here, but it's also mixed in with something else. I'm not really even sure what it's mixed in with, but I'm going to go ahead and pull in more of a rose. Leave a little bit of highlight. And then a nice long stem. Now you might be cutting out that whole stem, or you might not be seeing much of the stem at all, depending on your painting and where you use it. Totally fine. I'm going to be a little bit even more unpredictable, and I'm going to bring in a little bit of my mauve. Let's have more of a mauve leaf. There. Very pretty. Very, very pretty. Put a little mauve in this one. I think it needs a little something up here too. Ooh, look how pretty that mauve is with the green. Super, super pretty. All right, now I'm going to show you a little bit of the houses that I do. So I showed you some flowers, generic, showed you some leaves, very generic. And I'm going to then do a little house because I do have houses in my paintings. This one was a painting with a little bit of a larger house. Let me grab my other painting. And this was another painting I did about a week ago, and I think I even showed the video on this one. But see how I have some smaller houses in the background as well. And then I just kind of layer it with all my flowers and my hills. I usually bring in a moon or a sun. So it's really nice just to have a variety of different size houses in your paintings. All right, so this, if you feel a little bit better using, this is not as organic, obviously it's architecture. So if you feel a little bit better using a pencil just to sketch it out, definitely do that. I'm going to turn my sheet this way. And I'm just going to do a generic little house. It's just a rectangle with a little roof on it. If you want to leave it like that, like you're just seeing the front of the house, great. If you want to go ahead and start adding a little bit of perspective to it and give it a side, You could do that too. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and lighten it up with my kneaded eraser. And the reason I use a kneaded eraser is there's no eraser shavings, which is really nice. Okay, now you can barely see it, I get it, but we're going to start filling it in. I'm going to take a little bit of my indigo mixture over here, and I'm just going to start outlining it a little bit. You can make your houses any color you want. I usually leave mine mostly white, just because my paintings are usually very, very colorful. And I just want a little pop of white in my paintings. So I go ahead and I shadow them a little bit. And as you see, what I'm doing is I'm lifting it off with my paper towel. Oh, and I'm using my size 4 right now. So let's go ahead and do the other side. On the bottom. Just blend it out a little bit. I must have picked up a little bit more green. I don't know if you saw that, but all of a sudden my paint started turning a little bit more green over here, which I don't mind. I think it's nice even when your houses have a little bit of variety of color in them too. Lift it up. And now my roof, I usually use a Payne's Gray. Let me show you. This is my other palette. So I have my Payne's Gray right here. I already started a mixture of Payne's Gray, and I believe I brought in a little bit of my ultramarine blue. Take a little more of my Payne's Gray. And my ultramarine blue is on the other palette. Let's see, which one was it? This one. So bring in a little bit of my blue. And then I like to use a little bit darker for my I love to use a little bit darker for my roofs. And here again, just follow along. If you drew it out, just follow along with your roof line. You can leave a little bit of white highlights if you want to. I usually start getting a little bit fun with my houses. I even add a little bit, like if it's a moon or a sun in my landscape, I start adding a little bit of sparkle in my roofs. You don't have to add the glitter if you don't want to, but I add just a little bit of glitter just for a little bit of a shimmer. Okay. Now you know it's bleeding there because my side was still wet, which is totally fine. I'm going to bring in a little bit of a shadow anyways under that roof. Okay, and let's drop in a little bit more. And if your house is nice and dry, you can go ahead and put in some windows if you want to. Again, sometimes I leave a little bit of white space for the highlight, or I could just pull in my bleed proof white later. And you get really fun with these. You could put little shutters, you could do a door. Sometimes I do a door like a different color. Let me show you again. Like this one here, I did the blue mixture that I'm showing you right now, but then I pulled in more of a mauve door. It's just fun. It's just fun to just play around a little bit with some of these. Now that's mixing a little bit too much under my roof, so I'm going to pull some of it off. Like that. And then if you want, you could add in a little bit more. Just make it a little bit darker in certain areas. All right, so I think I'm gonna let this house just rest a minute and dry, and we'll go on to a different style house. Let's just do one that's more looking right at you. So again, I'm just taking my pencil. That's about all I'm going to do, because the rest I could just put in there. I just wanted to get kind of just to see how big my house will be. You don't even have to do that with the pencil if you don't want to. And I'm going to do the sides of my house again. If you like pink houses, red houses, green houses, whatever, just have fun with it. Make the houses whatever color you want. And I'm just kind of blending it in again. And then this one here, I know my roof line is really wet, so I'm going to go ahead and dry this really quick. Okay, I'm going to take my darker color and just put a little roof on it. You can make your roof as thick as you want. And now I'm going to go ahead and put in that little window. Actually, I think I'm going to do one or two windows and a door. You can leave a little white highlight if you want to in there. I just left a little bit of white. I think I'm going to do another window. And then I'm going to pull in, let's pull in a green door. I've got a little bit of my Viridian green on my palette here. You can round the door, you can make it a straight door, you can make it a really long door. It's your little house, you do whatever you want with it. All right, I'm going to go back to this one now. I'm going to add a little bit of my dark color again back to the roof. I'm trying to leave a little bit of that blue underlayment showing there. Okay. And I want to darken up this window a little bit. Now sometimes I give shutters to my houses and sometimes I don't. Let's just go ahead and put some shutters on this one. I'm going to do, let's do the mauve. I love this mauve color lately. And I just do two little lines going down on either side of the window. Just try and get it as straight as you can. Look how cute that is. And we could even put little green shutters or whatever on this one. Actually, I'm going to add a little mauve into the door just to tone it down a little bit. That green was just a little bit too bright for me. All right, and then if you want to add a little bit of an accent, a little bit of a highlight on the door, go ahead and just lift up some of that paint. See how that just pulled it off? You could do the same thing for your windows too. If you want, you could just pull off some of that. If you think that it was just a little too dark, go ahead and pull a little bit off. Another thing I'd like to do is put a little bit of a shadow under the roof line. So I'm just taking water and I'm rubbing out the roof line a little bit just so it just kind of bleeds down into the house. Very, very cool. All right, so then I go ahead and I cut these out. I'm going to let these dry over here, but I'm just going to show you how I usually cut them out on the ones that I did this morning and last night. So I go ahead and let's just say we want to cut this one out. So what I do is I usually just cut one out like that. And then I go around it. I usually leave a little bit of a white border. Okay. And now remember how before I was saying I don't like to waste my paper, especially if it's really pretty expensive paper, because some of them can get really pricey. These here I usually throw away, these little pieces like this. But this one here, you can still get a nice size little leaf out of it, because you never know if you need a smaller leaf or something, or even a little flower. So the bigger pieces of paper that I cut out, I usually put to the side and I keep them. Here, let's go ahead and let's cut one more out. Okay, so there's a couple little leaves, and let me just show you a flower. So let's cut this little one out. So again, and I'm just using just regular scissors. There's nothing special about these scissors. And if you don't like that white edge on your images, just go ahead and go right to the edge of the paint. You don't have to leave the white border. Look how pretty that is. Now this one I could probably get a cute little leaf, so I'll just like chop that off, chop this off, and save that piece. All right, so there's some of them. I'm gonna go ahead and cut out the rest of these later. And like I said before, I put them in this cute little box. I even decorated my box with some of my images, my watercolors. And this side I keep my houses, this side I keep all sorts of different flowers that I've created. I've got another box for fruit and vegetables that I have cut out, like little strawberries or berries. This one here, I have all my leaves, and see how I did do some red and pink leaves. I think I even did some purple leaves. I might have used the purple already. But I like to have just a whole bunch of different flower leaves, different colors. This one here is a little bit more of a blue. And then I'll put them in this box. And then on this side, I have more of my organic shapes. So actually, you know what? I should show you how I did one of those organic shapes as well. Let's go ahead and just show you. So I cut these out as well because they're just really nice to have as fillers in the background. And then I did some that were more like this shape. I don't even know what this could be. It could be a flower or whatever. Oh, and then here, I only used half of this one on a painting like I was showing you before. So the other half is still really beautiful. I might want to use that other half one day. So I just threw that half back into the box. All right, I'm going to show you. Let's see. I'll go back to this sheet here. I'll just show you a little organic shape that I can create. Let's just do one right here. Oop. So what I do normally is I'll do like a little circle and I'll fill it in nicely. And you could even put a little color to this so that you could see the color. Here again, I like to leave a little bit of white space. It's a nice little mauve. And then I'm going to put in, let's bring in a little bit of this purple. I don't even know what this purple was, but, and then you could just drop in other colors. So there's a little bit of a purple. Let's drop in a little bit of a rose. Oh, actually I have a little red in here too, rose and red. So you could just make these cute little shapes as well. And then when it dries, if you want to add another layer, you can add another layer. Let's go ahead and do another one over here just to fill up the sheet a little bit. So again, and you don't have to keep them in circular shapes. You could do squares, you could do triangles, it doesn't matter. Let's pull in a little green on this one. And then if you want, you could even just do a little bit on the border too. And just let it bleed in nicely that way. And actually this one here, I'm going to add a little bit of blue right in the middle. Let's do a little blue in this one too. Oh, look how pretty that is. So go ahead and fill up your sheet and cut them out and just put them in a box or whatever you have, and then you can go ahead and make a painting. So like on these paintings, if you want to go to the video, I believe I made this video a couple days ago, I showed how I just do the hills and the sky and everything in the background, and then I start layering it. So I just wanted to show you this first part of how I create all my cutouts, and then in the other video I show you how I actually make the background. So I just want to show you a little bit about that, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You can make a comment in the comment section if you're enjoying what I'm creating. I can make more for you. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe to this channel if you want more videos like this one. I would really appreciate that. All right, have a great day. Thanks. Bye.